going on, everyone? Welcome to episode number 43 here on the Proven Knowledge Podcast. This is the Creators Series. Today I welcomed a pretty incredible mix engineer. His name is David Yungin Kim. He's an LA native. He's originally from Korea. He was born in South Korea and moved to LA and has lived here his whole life. He recalled his journey from playing football and having a pretty bad injury in high school to going to college, where he picked up engineering with his friends, making music and everything. And since then, he's gone on to work with Dom Kennedy, Nas, Benny the Butcher, so many others. I can't even name all the people he's worked with. Won a couple Grammys, one of them with Racks in the Middle by Nipsey Hussle and Hit Boy. And he's actually been Hit Boy's main engineer now for the past 4 or 5 years. And so he's got to see that journey from that side and everything, working at Chalice recording studio in Los Angeles, where he's pretty much been, I think, his whole career. He recalled, starting there as an intern, and he's slowly just worked his way up to now he has, a full-time position there as an engineer. So he's got to work with many incredible artists and become, a part of many incredible moments. And, man, I really enjoyed this one. I was looking forward to this one for a long time because I'm a huge fan of David's work and everything. So without further ado, let's get into the episode. Welcome, everyone, to episode number 43 here on the Proven Knowledge Podcast. This is the Creators Series. Today we have a really amazing mix engineer. This dude's a legend in the making. He's worked with Nas, Benny the Butcher, Hit Boy, Dom Kennedy, many, many others that we'll probably get into in this episode. David Yungin Kim, how are you, man?
I'm good, man. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Bro. And like I said, I've been looking forward to this really since last summer, since we got in touch and everything. So this is probably going to be a great episode, I feel. So to start off, we kind of just have the guests give a little bit of background, how you got into music. Maybe those that aren't familiar with you, just a little bit of background about yourself and why you got into music.
Okay, so my whole life I played sports, and even to this day, sports are my first passion. Football in particular, I played since I was 7 years old, and I swore I was going to be the first full Korean to make it to the NFL. And I had big dreams, so that's what I pursued my whole life. I always had kind of a musical background because coming from a musical family, my parents encouraged me to try different instruments and things like that. So I grew up dabbling in piano and violin, trombone, things like that. But I never really wanted to make it a career until I had a back injury in high school, my senior year, which kind of derailed my plans to play football at the next level. Mm-hmm. And then I was forced to kind of reconsider. And, it wasn't so apparent at first because I went to college to study business management, and I absolutely hated it, dropped out. And then in that moment where everything was uncertain, I was kind of forced to try something. And engineering is something that piqued my interest. From recording with the homies, and I used to rap myself, so we used to record in my parents' garage in 110 degree summers, right? So I was the guy always manning the computer, and I always had an interest for it, but I needed football to get out of the way for me to actually see it. And then so I enrolled into Musicians Institute, the recording engineering program, and then that was the first time in my life I actually, paid attention in class and got straight A's, and that kind of showed me, maybe this is something that we can build a future on. And from there, fast forward, 11 years, and here we are.
So that was probably 2009, 2008, 2009 then. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty crazy. And like you said, you were going for business and you were kind of just I don't think that's going to work out that well. Maybe the music thing will kind of take off, and it's probably exceeded your expectations, honestly, for
sure.
Where it ended up and everything. So I know you also have produced on a few records as well. So is there a reason why you've been focusing primarily on engineering? Is it just because of like the success you've had, or is that just really like your main love out of what you've done so far?
Yeah, I think I worked so hard to develop a solid foundation with engineering that it would be kind of like almost a waste to not use it.
Mm-hmm.
And low key, I have more interest in engineering.
Mm-hmm.
Production is fun, but I feel like with production, there's definitely a wall where my lack of time put in to that craft will have me plateauing at a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
But between we only have 24 hours in a day, and now I'm married and I have so many other interests. It's like if I still want to be operating at a high level, I gotta kind of choose. And engineering's the thing that I want to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
And not to say I'm not going to produce, because I still mess around here and there. But it's primarily, if you look at the guys I've produced for, they're kind of like people that are close to me. I don't even tell people I produce. It just happens to come out when someone's in the studio like, damn, do you have any beats? I'm like, yeah, I got some.
It's like a secret weapon. You just kind of like, oh, by the way, I got this if you want it.
Yeah. If anything, I think the production side helped me as an engineer more, because it makes me focus more on arrangement and things like that to kind of liven up the mix or introduce something that hasn't been done before.
Mm-hmm.
So if anything, I'm using the tools I learned on both sides as a collective.
I know that there's always kind of like a debate as far as like you should focus on one or the other, because I know like a lot of producers, they try and mix their own stuff at least a little bit to learn how to do it and get their stuff sounding really good and like up to par with kind of the industry standard and everything. But then there's also the argument where it's like, are you really going to become that good at producing or at engineering if you keep going back and forth? Like you might just want to narrow it down and become a master of the craft in the one thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that makes total sense, honestly, from your standpoint. But a master of the craft on the other side of the producer side is the guy you've been working with for 4 years now, I think, Hit Boy. So how has that run been? Because like that dude, it's fucking wild. Because like he had like the good music era, obviously, which was a big thing for him, the HS87 era, and then this era is really like just him, just putting in a ton of work and just being involved in all these projects. So like, what has that been like for you? Because you've been a part of a lot of this stuff in the last few years. What has that been like to just be a part of the moments that are being created?
It's been fun, man. Like I have to give him credit for helping me meet a lot of the people that I would have never, worked with if it wasn't for him. And I think it's like I love working with him because we have kind of like a brotherhood. It's more of a homie relationship than like a employee and an employer, or even a producer engineer. Like we bounce around ideas without any boundaries, and I think that definitely helps us elevate our game in our respective fields. And bro, it's been fun, man. There was when I first left Chalice to go work with Hit Boy, there was a little bit of a rough patch where things weren't picking up like they used to, And then in that time, we really showed each other that we were committed to it. And you know how they say you got to look at the people that were there when you were down, And I think that's what happened there, and we built a trust upon that, and yeah.
I thought it was interesting too. I've heard him in some interviews kind of speak about like around 2016 and 17, he kind of hit like a roadblock where the label thing didn't work out, and he was kind of just trying to get momentum back. And it seemed like ever since you guys went to Chalice, things kind of just changed, and like the whole energy kind of just picked up again. And slowly it's built into this momentum where like everyone's starting to take notice now. You know what I mean? Like I feel like it was already there, but now it's just right in front of people's faces, so they can't deny it anymore. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
I'm
man.
it's just incredible to watch, especially as a fan, because I've been following him for, I'd say, at least 7 or 8 years now, since before a lot of the recent stuff. So it's very incredible to watch him get his accolades, and for you, I'd say that's incredible for you as well, just to be there on that journey.
I was a fan before I was ever an engineer of his.
Hmm.
I grew up listening to Hit Boy, and the fact that we are born in the same year, and that 87 means a lot to me.
Mm.
That number is significant in my life because we share birth years, and I remember just seeing him around Chalice when I was a runner and an intern. Like, damn, I really fuck with his vibe, and I hope that there's room in the future for us to work together. And I manifested it to myself
Hmm.
that one day we're gonna work together. And hard work pays off,
Hmm.
man. Like, on his end, like, there's no one that works harder than Hit Boy. He's literally first in, last out mentality. Weekends don't matter. Holidays don't matter. He's here, at the crack of dawn. Like, and he moves early too. So like he'd be up at 6, 7 a.m. and he'd be at the studio by 10 a.m. And that's not something you see producers and people in the hip hop industry doing.
Hmm.
Because they like moving at night, and he even accommodates to that. So you got people coming in at midnight, and he's still there from 10 a.m. to 3 a.m. So he's testament
Hmm.
to hard work pays off.
Yeah, it's just like
And
like a whole nother level of work ethic for sure. So coming up, who would you say were your biggest musical influences, as far as like you remember listening to them in school? You remember being like, oh man, this kind of makes me want to do music. You know what I mean?
first on the list is Nas, because I've told this story, but my first album, my first two albums I ever purchased, or my mom purchased for me, were Illmatic and It Was Written. So It Was Written, I think it came out in '96, and I was 9 years old. We went to the record store to get it. At the time, I had to get the explicit version or the censored version because the guy at the register was like, "Do you know this contains a lot of vulgar language and blah blah?" And then she was like, "Oh, really? Is there one that's?" And then he was like, "I recommend the censored version." I was like, "Oh man!" But those two albums, they kind of jump started my love for hip hop and rap, and so Nas is a big influence in my life. And at the same time, I grew up in LA, so DJ Quick, Dr. Dre. I listened to a lot of Tupac. So I grew up listening to East Coast and West Coast rap, even though at that time it was a lot of beef going back and forth. It was like, man, I'm just here for the music, and the music was great. Sometimes like if we're partying or we're just riding around, the West Coast music was the vibe.
Mm-hmm.
If we're at home and we're like, if we really want to feel something and dissect lyrics and the art of MCing, like New York rap was it at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So like, and then the Atlanta scene came up, and bro, I'm just a sponge, man. I like all different kinds of music, and I was influenced heavily by those guys growing up.
Mm-hmm. So I know you've already worked with Nas, obviously, on King's Disease and everything, which is incredible. Is there anyone else maybe out of that list that you eventually want to engineer for, hopefully?
I get asked this a lot, and every time I get asked this, I kind of have a similar answer, and it's like everybody that I've wanted to work with, I've had the pleasure of working with, and minus like Aaliyah, I would have died to work with. J. Cole, Drake, but I understand that they have their camps and they have their guys. So working with them is more of like a dream than a goal to me. But I got to work with DJ Quick while I was an assistant engineer. And that was really cool. He gave me his number. He was like, keep in touch. Like, you're nice. And I was like, that's crazy.
That's a West Coast legend right there.
Right. And people don't know how cold he is on the console. DJ Quick couldn't dissect. He could disassemble an SSL board and put it back together. People don't know that. You know what I mean?
Crazy.
Dr. Dre, I haven't had the honor of working with, but through Nas on the track Full Circle, I got to mix Dr. Dre's vocals, Foxy Brown's vocals, AZ's vocals, Cormega's vocals. So that was kind of cool. So, indirectly, that's like a check on my list. Hey, I got Dre.
It's funny because I remember listening to King's Disease for the first time, and like I heard Full Circle, and I was like, oh, it's kind of like the reunion or whatever. And then it didn't have Dr. Dre credited at the end, and then like you just hear him, and you're like, what the fuck?
Out of nowhere.
Like, that was fun. That was amazing, and I was like, okay, this album is like the shit now. Like it was already great, but I'm like, damn, they just slid that in there like it was nothing.
Right. I think that was a cool moment because back in the day, hip hop and rap albums would have secret features and even secret songs at the end of the original song. Like Jay-Z he used to do it. I think on Life and Times of Sean Carter 2, the last track is like 10 minutes something long. But on a CD player, you're not really peeping the countdown, And sometimes you'll find it by mistake. Like you'll just keep letting it play. There'll be a minute of silence, and then there's another song at the end of the last song. You're like, oh shit, the bonus song. And like, I think that was kind of a tribute to that indirectly, subconsciously. Let's not put Dr. Dre's name on there. But when he comes out, people will lose their minds. And I hope that it did that for some
it
people.
definitely did for me. Like, that was such a pleasant surprise. And that's like one of my favorite songs on the album to begin with. Like, the beat is just so good. So, huge fan of that one. What do you think, since you've been in music, what do you think was the best advice you've ever been given as far as like how to approach this as a career? Because a lot of people kind of have trouble transitioning from a hobby to a career as far as like business goes and things like that. Is there anything that anyone's told you that's kind of stuck with you all these years?
I've heard multiple times that there's no right or wrong, and it means something completely new than from when I first heard it. But now, like what I take from it is like, hey, you can learn from anybody. There can be a bedroom producer, a bedroom engineer that can teach me some stuff, because their way of getting to a point is still a path. You know what I mean? It's still a valid path. No matter how many curves and obstacles that you had to hop over, you still got to this point. So if my path does not work, then having these other perspectives is gold. Because then I can, anytime I hit a roadblock, instead of stressing out over, I can just switch to the next one. And like, that's why I think listening is a really important thing, and people just told me to just take everything in and learn from everything, and I try to stay humble enough where I can listen to anybody's advice and take what I need from it and not discount anyone's word. So that helped me, just I think stay relevant with the times. I get DMs from kids that are like 15, 16 and looking for advice and things like that. And then, I try to flip it and ask them for advice. Like, hey, how'd you get this sound? And what did you do on this, And the things that I hear, like, sometimes I use it. And it's not always going to be used. It's not like I'm trying to find a new method to do stuff. But if I can have an alternate way of doing something, then there's more power to it.
It's like it's like more tricks for the arsenal, pretty much. Like even if you, like you said, if you never use them, they're still there. Like if you need them, the end of the day.
Yeah.
So it's pretty
It's
it's
bullet,
pretty
man. It's
interesting.
ammunition,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So if you could go back 10 years ago, let's say 2011, if you could go back
10
10
years.
years ago, maybe give yourself any advice or maybe not change anything at all, what do you think you'd do?
I'm an advocate of just going with the flow and not living with any regrets. But
Mm.
for the sake of this conversation, in 2011, that's when I first started interning here. Actually, let's see. March 2011, I was still in limbo. So I graduated first in my class at MI. And for 2 years, I couldn't find a job. And that was between, I guess, June 2009 to March, or June 2009 to June 2011. I couldn't find a job. So I was still stuck in that limbo in March 2011. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So, like, I would just tell myself, hang in there, that everything's going to work out. And this is just another humbling moment. You know, this is something to learn from. You know, like, you never want to be here again. You never want to think of yourself so highly and then be in a situation where it's not reflecting on the rest of your life.
Mhm.
You know, my whole thing is, like, there's multiple times in my life where I was humbled because I got too cocky or too confident in something. And those are the moments that really taught me the most. And all the lessons that I take and carry every single day, it came from those humbling moments. So I would tell myself, hey, this is another humbling moment. You're going to have many more ahead of you, but this is essential to your growth.
Mhm.
So hang in there and learn from it. You know, any situation, whether it's good or bad, there's two ways to take it. You can take it constructively, or you can let it, you know, become destruction.
Mhm.
So, like, whatever happens in life, you have that option to perceive it in whatever way.
Mhm.
And then from there, the paths open up, or the roads open up in that direction.
Mhm.
You know, so, you know, I think that's something that I learned in that time period, the 2011, 2010, 2011. It was some of the hardest moments in my life because, you know, I finally found something I really loved doing and I was good at. Graduated school, and I still couldn't find a job. So I was like, what the fuck?
Mhm.
Like, even if you find something you're passionate about, it doesn't mean that the world's going to give it to you. You know what I mean? You still got to put in work.
Yep.
You still got to go and take it. So I think a lot of younger cats these days, they feel like, if I find the one thing that I'm passionate about, then my life's going to work itself out. Nah, it really isn't. If anything, it's the other way around. You work your ass off, and then you stumble upon something that you're passionate about, and then you have to work your ass off to make that work. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, people think it's like once you find that thing, it becomes easy. Nah. Mm-hmm. Once you find that thing, it becomes harder than you can ever imagine. And then if you want it bad enough, then, you know, then you get success from it. Mm-hmm. So that's something that I want to tell people.
Yeah, that to me is always what separates, like, who's gonna have sustainability versus who's just gonna be here for a little bit, just because it really is just like that. It's like people think that it just magically happens overnight, or it only happens in a very short amount of time, but in reality, it's like you really gotta dedicate yourself every single day in and day out to this, or it's never really gonna take off. And that's just how it is. Like, and you got to think of all the other amount of people trying to do what you're doing as well. Like, there's people that aren't going to give up. There's people that are going to wake up every day and just put in the work and the time. Are you going to do that, or are you just going to kind of put one foot in and one foot out? You know what I mean? And then, like, complain when it gets tough. So, but
or find reasons to not do it.
Yeah, exactly. Just make excuses.
I think that was one of the most motivating elements in my life. Especially when things got hard, like, I would think about the people that are still doing it. Mm. The people that, like, I would wake up a little bit late and, you know, hit snooze a couple times, and then I'll get to work, and then I'll feel guilty and almost like I'm behind. Because I know somewhere someone woke up at 7 a.m., did a 5-mile jog, took a shower, got to the studio, and they got on their shit before I even woke up. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, so a lot of times, like, that's what kept pushing me, is having the feeling of someone chasing me. Like, yo, if I don't stay till 4 a.m. tonight, someone else is going to stay till 4 a.m. tonight, and they're going to take the spot that we're both fighting for.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And I don't know if there was a lot of truth to it, but that's what I use to motivate me. So I feel like everyone has to find that thing that pushes them, that drives them, whether it's proving somebody wrong. Like, you know how, are you a fan of Michael Jordan?
Yeah.
Did you watch the
documentary?
The
30 for 30, yeah. Yeah, I saw that.
Well, you know how Jordan, he always looked for a reason to hit that trigger.
Yeah. He would just make up stories and just like in his head, yeah.
Yeah, just like that. Like that he had to have something to motivate him, because I don't know if otherwise he would have had the same drive, you know? Kobe too, he was a killer like that. Like, and it's not the same for everybody that's successful. Some people want a better life. Some people want something that, you know, that their parents had when they grew up. And then some people want something that the parents didn't have. Like, some people want to be different from the life that they grew up from. And then some people want to elevate from that. So it's like, whatever it is, like, you just got to find your thing and gung-ho.
Exactly. And that builds the self-discipline too. Like, that's where it all starts to me. So
yeah.
So 10 years from now, let's look into the future now. Let's say, where do you want to be in 10 years from where we're at now?
There's a lot of things that I want to accomplish. Like, in 10 years, I want to be a father. I want to be a homeowner. I want to be a studio owner. I want to have an academy in place, like in my neighborhood that I grew up in, because, you know, I want to give people opportunities that I didn't have. And I want to be a mentor for the people that, you know, didn't have a mentor. I didn't have a mentor growing up, and that's something that I wished I had. But now that I'm in my position, I'm able to be that for other people. You know what I'm saying? So my 10-year goals are not really musical, because I know that's going to take care of itself. And the things that I want to do aren't going to work out the way I want them to work out anyway. So I'm going to leave that to God. But then the things that I do want are, you know, I want to be a better person. I want to be smarter than I am today. I want to be a better husband, a better kid, or a better son, a better person. And I don't know, man. There's not a lot of goals I can set 10 years in the future, because it's so far. But
just gotta
I know that if I just, you know, keep the right attitude and work hard, like, whatever's gonna come is gonna be success.
Yeah, just let it play itself out. But I love all that, and like, I feel like you could build a sweet ass studio, man. Like, I feel like if you had a studio, that would be incredible, top notch. So
it's kind of in the works right now.
Oh,
like,
really?
we're planning.
So speaking of that, I know you can't reveal a ton of, you know, what you're working on. Maybe not even music. What projects can we expect from you in the next like year or so? Maybe for the rest of 2021, whatever.
Man, I've been locking in with like a lot more K-pop stuff. It's kind of a bitch to mix, low key, because there's so many tracks. I'm saying like 150 tracks on every single K-pop song, right? But I think I kind of want to slowly not transition genres, but position myself so I can be able to work more with Korea. Because I'm Korean. I was born there, but I grew up in the States. And for a long time, I kind of had like an identity crisis, because I didn't want to fully accept my heritage. Because I'm American. People are like, you know, what nationality? I'm American. You know, I look Asian, but I was born here. I mean, I'm from here. I was born there, but this is all I know. But a couple years back, I had a moment. I was visiting Korea. It was on my honeymoon actually, and we went up to like one of the highest towers in Busan, which is the second biggest city in Korea. And I looked down at the city, and I had like a little moment, right? I felt a tear coming for no reason. And I was like, damn, like, these are my people. This is where I'm from, and from there I kind of started embracing the culture more. And one of my goals is to kind of be a bridge for the music industries. As far as engineering and production goes, like I want to do seminars and workshops in Korea where I show them how engineers in America do it. Because Korean engineers, they have a completely different job. They're more the guys that push the buttons, keep the files in check. It's like what engineers used to do 20, 30 years ago in the States. They don't have any creative say. They're the bottom guys. So I want to take what I learned in the States and kind of translate it and implant it into the culture over there too, because I think that can push the music further.
That's incredible. I remember talking to Mike Daly on this podcast. He was talking about working with NCT and going over there and like how different it was and the atmosphere and everything. And so I feel like you just bringing light to that, and especially like you said, like your family's from there and everything, that's just like so dope. And I hope you can do that. I hope you can go over there and kind of do little events and things like that, and just kind of like give back to that community as well, because like that's what it's all about, you know what I mean? So I wish you luck on that, especially. So where are you at on social media? I know you're on Instagram. Are you on Twitter or anything else where people could find you at?
I'm on Twitter, Instagram. I got a TikTok, but I'm not really. I mean, there are things that I want to do on there. I have ideas, but it just doesn't fit my timeline really, and I don't really have time to invest in that. And I used to be on Twitter a lot, but the busier I got, like, like I don't tweet at all anymore. Even Instagram is so much. It's so time consuming, and I want to be more active, but I don't really care like that. I try to do the minimum.
Dude, most of the time you just gotta like turn your phone off and just put it down, because you just I'll do it too. I'll find myself just scrolling, and I'll be like, "What am I doing? I'm not even looking."
You're like, "Oh my god!"
It's like I'm scrolling and I'm not even seeing anything like that's interesting to me or that I care about, and I'm like, "Why am I even on my phone right now? I just need to put it down."
It's almost like we're hoping to see something like
that,
amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
But most of the time you're just scrolling endlessly, and you're like,
for nothing.
Yeah, a lot of the times it puts you in more of a depressing mood than you started off.
Yeah.
Because you're seeing the highlights of everybody's lives, You're seeing just what they want to show to other people. So it's like, oh man, look at this guy. I went to high school with this guy. He's in a Ferrari. Like what am I doing? That happens, and I feel like it's so toxic. And this generation's gonna, have a tough time, man. And that's one of the things I'm really scared about. The prospect of becoming a father and raising a kid in that culture. Yeah. Like, it's tough, but hey, we went through some shit too, and somehow we came out okay. So I'm not really too worried.
We'll just have to see what happens, because like you said, I think it's all shifting that way anyway, just with like the pandemic and everything. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays itself out. Do you have any final words of wisdom today, David, for the listeners?
Man, just don't aim to please other people, because at the end of the day, the person that you're trying to please might be gone, and if that's gone, then what are you really working for? Like, I heard that they interviewed employees at a nursing home, and what's like the best advice that people on their deathbeds gave them, and that was it. Like, live your life. Don't try to please other people, because you will lose yourself, and at the end of the day, like, you don't know yourself anymore. I see that happen with like parents a lot. One of the parents become, okay, I have to be the best parent, and once they hit 50, 60, it's like, who am I? I don't have any passions. Their kids leave and they're just lost, and I don't want that to happen. So I think, just find yourself and enjoy the things you do, and keep doing the things you enjoy. Because what's life if you can't enjoy it and if you can't be happy? Like, money's gonna be there, and as long as you do what you love and you have passion and you work hard at it, like, you'll be able to make a killing. When I first started engineering, I almost accepted the fact that, I took a look around at all the engineers and the lives they lived and stuff, and I'm like, engineers don't really make a lot of money, so I'm going into this knowing that, I might cap out at $75K a year, but I was okay with that. Like, hey, as long as I like what I do, I'm okay living a mediocre financial life, But I realized that the top, 5-10% in any field are making a killing. Like, you can take any job, I don't know, sanitation, even trash men. Like, you have the trash men, like the top tier trash men. Those guys are guys that turn trash into, something. Or like the scientists that make recyclables into other things. Like, they're getting, high six figures. You take any single job and you look at the top 10% of that job, and they're making a killing. So my advice would be, don't be pressured into doing something else for money. Because if you do what you love to do and you get good enough at it, that'll take care of itself.
Love it, man. Love it, David. That's all I have for you today, man. Like I said, I appreciate you getting back with me about being on the show. Good luck next week at the Grammys, obviously. King's Disease. Hopefully you get number 3. You get number 3, man. I'm wishing you the best of luck, and looking forward to all you got coming up, man.
I appreciate you, man. Keep in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for listening today. That was episode number 43. If you'd like to support, hit the support button on your podcast streaming platform if you want to send any funds our way. But until next week, we will see you then. Thanks very much.